but not from an academic journal. It's from a genuine, raw reflection on a weekend trip.
Right. The writer calls it a real-life educational trip.
An experience of actively integrating life with learning. I love that framing.
And the mission here really is to see how these huge transformative ideas can come from a very unexpected place.
Exactly. We're diving into what was learned from just a brief interaction with a young man working at a budget hostel in Bangkok.
A single conversation.
And the context is so specific, which I think is important. We're in the Samson area of Bangkok, and the dates are precise. Saturday, November 29th, and Sunday, November 30th, 2025.
So this is fresh. The whole thing happens because the writer is just waiting around while helping a guest get checked in.
Right, and that brings us to the setting itself, because before we get to the big philosophy, we have to talk about the value here.
Oh, absolutely. The cost for a bed was, get this, 312.34 Thai baht per night.
For a bed in a shared 8-person room. Plus a small deposit, of course.
I mean, that is budget travel dialed in.
It really is. The source describes the hostel as a reformed shop house. One of those classic long, narrow buildings you see all over Southeast Asia.
But they've been really clever with the interior.
That's the thing, the ingenuity.
Yeah, what's fascinating is how they handled privacy. It's not just bunk beds out in the open.
No.
They use these heavy curtains to divide up the space, so each person gets their own little private section.
And the writer immediately makes a connection to something they'd seen online, right?
Yep, the Japanese capsule hotel concept. But this is like a Thai adaptation. It's functional, it works.
It sounds like they created that sense of privacy without a huge structural investment.
Exactly. And the writer was thorough. They even mentioned getting a quick tour.
Making notes on cleanliness, of all things.
Right. They point out the small 2-stall restroom on what they call the layer floor.
Which is basically the mezzanine level.
Right. And they note it was very clean. So for a price just over 300 baht, the conclusion is that the location, the cleanliness, everything, it was excellent.
And that really sets the stage, doesn't it? It tells you this is about finding value, not in luxury, but in efficiency and these surprising little details.
For sure.
So the human element, it starts on Saturday. There's the friendly Burmese woman at the counter. Gives a great first impression.
But the core of this whole story shows up on Sunday. And his name is Lucas.
Right. So Lucas is working. The writer is just sitting in the lobby waiting, eating some food they brought in.
And this is where the whole dynamic shifts. Lucas's hospitality wasn't just, part of the job description.
No, it was more than that.
He proactively offers the writer a glass of water and a tissue without being asked.
And that small gesture, that little thing he didn't have to do, it just elevates the whole interaction immediately.
It opens the door to a real connection.
It does. They fall into a conversation, and it quickly turns into that classic icebreaker, the age-guessing game.
Which is always fun.
The writer sees Lucas, his maturity, his confidence, and guesses he's older. Maybe 30 to 40.
And Lucas guesses the writer is somewhere between 50 and 60.
The big reveal is 65. Well, actually 67, but close enough. And what's interesting is Lucas's reaction.
He's genuinely amazed. He says that in his home country, Myanmar, people in their 50s and 60s might not have that same level of vigor or be so sociable.
So right there, that's a little cross-cultural moment, but this is where it gets really, really interesting.
This is the pivot.
Because Lucas, who we find out is only 27, basically unveils his entire life philosophy.
He's Burmese, and he started learning English when he was just 10 years old.
With one single driving goal.
To travel the world.
And this is the insight we really need to unpack. He's not doing the traditional work a career, save up, then travel and retirement thing.
No, and it's not an unstructured gap year either. His life is a practical system. It's about integration.
He uses work as a vehicle for global travel, and really for continuous learning.
That's the brilliance of it. We see his blueprint laid out. 5 years ago, he was in Dubai, working.
Yet back to Myanmar for a bit.
Now he's in Thailand, been here for about a year, and the next stop is already on the map.
Romania, next year. He has a friend there who's already working, so he has a landing spot.
So this raises a big question, doesn't it? What kind of mindset, what kind of risk tolerance does this take?
A huge amount.
He's living a life where your job is defined by skills you can take anywhere. Hospitality, English, which lets him turn his income directly into exploration.
He sees structure not as a cage, but as, a temporary scaffold?
A scaffold for the next adventure. That's a great way to put it.
And even with all this movement, He's still focused on where he is.
Yeah.
The writer noted he's actively trying to learn Thai.
Yeah, and get this detail. Lucas told him that this very conversation, this casual chat in the lobby,
It was the first time he'd actually practiced simple introductory Thai phrases with a local in the whole year he'd been there.
think about that. He's so focused, but he saw this opportunity to connect and learn.
We also see his politeness. He used his phone, typing a message in Thai, to ask the writer if they needed to use the upstairs restroom.
It's just efficient, respectful, and, culturally aware.
And seeing this integrated, fluid life that Lucas is living, it sparks a really profound, almost painful realization for the writer,
It forces them to look at their own life.
and realize they'd always been living inside a series of, well, small boxes.
And this is the real heart of the deep dive, I think. We all know these boxes.
We do. The writer lays them out so clearly. The school box, primary, university, then the work box, the whole career.
And now the home box of post-retirement life. Everything is contained, predictable.
And ultimately limiting. The regret is just. You can feel it in the writing.
A real sense of wishing they'd adopted this mindset so much earlier.
They even confess to this deep-seated fear of traveling outside Thailand. This fear of leaving and somehow not being able to come back home.
That detail is so crucial because the writer mentions their own family history. Their ancestors migrated from China.
Right, so it's not just about comfort.
No, it's a cultural anxiety. It's tied to this history of migration and finally setting down roots, building a secure home base. The writer says, my heart is Thai,
Yeah.
They want to stay.
Exactly. So the goal isn't to become a globetrotter like Lucas. The goal is to escape the psychological limits of the boxes.
To expand the box you're in.
Yes, the conclusion is that you have to actively expand the box by integrating real-life experience with your learning.
This whole experience just validates that idea completely. The writer even defines this trip, this simple act of sitting in a hostel lobby, as a deliberate step,
They call it a thasana swiksa.
which translates as field trip, but it feels heavier than that, doesn't it? It implies structured, intentional learning, just outside of a classroom.
This whole thing was a masterclass in life philosophy,
Yeah.
taught by a 27-year-old.
Totally. The learning was cross-generational.
And the writer expresses this deep gratitude, this feeling of being impressed. They talk about this intense energy wave they got from Lucas.
It was a relationship built on mutual respect, even though it was so brief.
But the climax of this story, the thing that makes it so, I think, so revolutionary for our time.
Is what didn't happen.
Exactly. The writer makes a point of saying they did not ask for a photo.
And they did not exchange contact information. No phone number, no line ID, nothing.
Hold on. In the year 2025, when every single meaningful moment has to be documented and stored in a contact list, they just walked away.
They walked away without the data.
That's a radical act.
It is. It's radical presence. Instead of getting a digital souvenir of the friendship, the writer chose to just store the feeling.
To store that energy wave in that one fleeting moment, it's a lesson in non-attachment.
It completely shifts the value from documentation to assimilation to actually internalizing the lesson.
Right. The writer believes that the energy from that moment, now captured in this writing, will scatter through every atom of space.
And that they'll meet again someday. It shows the learning was permanent, It didn't need a digital receipt.
The highest value exchange wasn't information. It was perspective. It was energy.
Precisely.
So let's wrap up the core lessons from this deep dive. We've learned that profound education isn't tied to a price tag or a fancy location.
It can happen in a 312 baht hostel, and the teacher can be a 27-year-old who has just figured out how to weave his life and his goals together.
Such a powerful example of cross-generational and cross-cultural learning.
Yeah,
And it leads directly to this moment of self-reformation for the writer.
absolutely. The tangible outcome is their new commitment to expanding the box through real-life experience, all inspired by Lucas. This wasn't just a weekend away.
No.
It was an accidental, profound mentorship that completely reframed their perspective on what a life can be.
And that brings us to our final thought for you to chew on. If the true value of an interaction lies not in the exchange data, the photo, the contact info, but in the pure energy wave of the connection itself.
How does that change the way you approach new encounters in your own life? Is it possible that you could actually learn more by prioritizing presence over documentation?